how is this, other than the surgery, how has the last week been different than other, last weeks, or, digesting how a season finished?
Every year is different. I think fundamentally the process is similar. You're looking at different things substantively, but the commonality, I think is, your initial reflection, some of the emotion, that goes with that, processing just the fact that your season's over when, I really believe that, we just kind of needed a spark, and we had a chance to do something special. That didn't happen. So there's, a sense of loss, in that sense. And then you get, I think it's important to get some distance, whether it's forced on you like it was in my case, or you can step away from it to a degree. I think that distance and, letting the emotion kind of flow through, and then having an opportunity to be responsive as opposed to reactive. And, that process, hasn't occurred yet on the level that it will. But the initial part of it is, unless you're the last team standing, you go through some of the same emotions, regardless of what the result is other than that one.
Is it maybe a little weird going into this offseason, just knowing you guys, it's like a full offseason, compared to what it was? How does that kind of play into things?
Yeah, I think there's part of it that there's been kind of a new normal, and I think to function at the level that, you wanted to, and potentially the highest level possible, you had to really embrace, whether it be, an initial hiatus, the bubble, a shortened off season, a shortened season, you go through. And I think that what happened a little bit, I think for everyone, I can't speak for everyone obviously, but the seasons kind of run together a little bit. The breaks were longer than All-Star break, but it's kind of that idea that this was almost one season, 3 seasons packed into kind of one longer period. And I think, I'm sure you guys felt it too. There's some fatigue that you're fighting, and everybody had that. So I think everybody will be appreciative of an off season where you have more time to recharge and spend whatever it is you choose to do personally, whether it's more time with your family or different interests. I think that's a possibility out there now.
When the season ended, there was a lot of questions about what was going to happen with your job and whether you were going to want to stay here. So I guess, can we just address that? What do you want?
Yeah, I think, first of all, let me say, I've said this before, but it's worth saying again. My family's loved it here, and don't judge my tense when I speak. So my family loves it here. How's that? Whether it's school, the community, Salt Lake, the city, the experience has been and it continues to be a great one. I'm privileged, to coach a group of players, and I'm reminded of that, consistently throughout the year. We're all not perfect, but I'm grateful for that, and I really like our players. Additionally, from an ownership standpoint, appreciate the things that Ryan's doing. Have great respect for him and his vision for the franchise, and then. Working with Justin and Danny has been great. Obviously have tremendous respect for them. So, beyond that, I think I've, continued to maintain that I'm not going to discuss my contractual situation publicly. That's just not something that that I want to do or I'm comfortable doing.
When you reflect on what happened this season, and obviously you guys had championship contention goals, why do you think you fell kind of short the way that you did, and what were the kind of biggest gaps between expectations and reality from your mind?
Well, I think, first of all, I think, you know, having championship level aspirations is something, you know, we had them the previous year as well, in a real way. Expectations, you know, that put another layer on top of that. You know, we had the best offense in the league. I think the best offense historically with either Hassan or Rudy on the floor. We knew last year, you know, the way the season ended. I said before, you know, I wish we had another game. I wish that Game 6 had happened earlier in the series. It actually did this year. It happened in Game 2. But, you know, I think every year, you know, part of, you know, the off-season process that I alluded to before is taking, you know, a long look at that and seeing how you can improve. You know, without dissecting the regular season, I think, you know, I was consistent throughout the year saying, you know, we want to be the best version of ourselves at the end of the year. And, you know, in contrast maybe to what was, well, the best, you know, pure winning percentage in Jazz history the year before, but, you know, the same feeling of coming up short, you know, last year. You know, with this year, I can, you know, I can go through the things in the Dallas series that I felt, you know, impacted the result. One of them was just our shooting. You know, we shoot 22% in the series, so it's 22 or 27. 22 the last 3 games. You know, when they had Luka. So it's that said, there's games you want to grind out when you don't make shots, and we actually did that in Game 1. So, you know, that's a broad stroke. You know, I think we felt some of the same challenges containing the ball throughout different parts of the series, but I thought our guys adjusted to that well. We dropped our pickup points. We shifted more. We were able to really limit some things and impact some things where, you know, had we shot the ball better, we might have had, or we would have had a different result, you know, just based on, you know, the QSQ data. And that doesn't do a lot for you right now. So, you know, you try to look at all the other variables, you know, the shots you're getting, you know, what can you do different defensively, you know, the 5 different pick and roll coverages that we threw at Colbert that didn't impact Game 2. But I thought it had an impact, you know, the rest of the series. You can go through all the minutia, and when you do it right now, like I'm doing with you, I don't think it's the best way to analyze, you know, that series or the season. I don't think you can necessarily separate out a series, because a series, you know, by definition is a certain matchup with a particular team. So, which again, that's something you can't control. You know, the year before we couldn't control injuries. We didn't have that this year. You know, we were healthy, and that was great. You know, so in that sense, you know, the opportunity this year didn't have that hurdle. But again, those are questions I think as you step back, and, you know, for me, I'll watch the film. We'll meet with Danny and Justin, and I've already done some of that with our staff, kind of impromptu, which is good to the extent that you feel the emotion and some of your, you know, your short-term feelings, and then you either debunk them or you find other ones or whatever the case may be. But I think that whole thought process is something that has yet, obviously, to occur on the level that it will. And obviously that's important. You know, you're not satisfied. You know, you have aspirations to be better and win more, and that's what we'll try to do.
I don't know if you've been able to break down the film yet, but have you been able to pinpoint why you shot about 9 or 10% the last 2-3 in the playoffs and regular season?
You know, I felt like, you know, even you're looking at were we getting good shots, and I think, you know, they put a huge emphasis on taking away early threes early in the series. I think our you know, we were getting like 33% of our shots from 3. You know, as the series went on, we moved up to like 42, 44. So we actually did start getting those shots. We just didn't make them. We were getting the rim earlier in the series, and we didn't finish at the rim the way we did during the regular season either. So that's always a hard one. It's why, I just used it, kind of as an example with Andy's question, but that's always a hard one to, to process, because you don't want to just say, hey, we didn't shoot well. You hear that. Sometimes that's a good one during the season to help you get to the next game. It's a make or miss league, and then you realize it's actually true. But you have to be able to perform and win when you're not making. But as far as why we didn't, shoot at the rate that we did during you always, I guess you'd expect some drop off, but it's pretty extreme. And at the same time, I think Dallas shot like 7% higher than they do during the regular season. So I don't have an answer for you that is satisfactory to me.
When you look at what your goal was this year and what it has been, what do you guys have to do just as an organization to get to what your stated goal is, which is to be the last team standing?
Yeah, that is the goal. And I think, embracing the process of improvement during the season so that you can continue to improve to the extent that you're able during the year. Some of the broader questions about roster and things, those are things that, are best for you to ask Danny and Justin. That said, we'll all meet. We'll talk about exactly what you're bringing up, how you can be better. And again, I think it feeds back to, the question previously is that, you want to give that, first you want to kind of give it time to breathe, and then you want to be exhaustive in how you look at that. I think there's times when, again, you want to be responsive, I should say, as opposed to reactionary. So there's things that are easily ascertained more than others, and then you also, you go from identifying something to addressing it and solving it. And but the identification process and how you weight certain things, every team is going to have some flaws, and how do you mitigate those and maximize your strengths? And the best way to go about that, that's going to come through, dialogue and, everybody sharing and responding and collaborating on that question. And I'll give my input, obviously, just like everyone else.
Where do you think Donovan still has room to grow as a player?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is Donovan's he's a young player. So I think the question itself is a good one. And I think it's one that he asks himself as well. That, at his age, at this point in his career, it's great that you have areas to improve. He's someone that's shot the ball like crazy in the playoffs, and didn't shoot it as well this year. But we know what a good shooter he is, whether it's off the dribble or catch and shoot. So I'm not right now, gonna dissect, basically a player development plan. But that's actually something that we do at the end of the season, and it's something that we do during the year, is try to give guys feedback. And certainly, at the end of the year, you have a larger sample size, and you can dig in even more. And, that's dialogue-based too. I think, players' input on that is really, really important. And I think also maybe to point the question is, how can every player improve to help the team win? And that's part of it too, because, there may be 10 areas you want to improve in, but prioritizing them, I think, is also important. And, that's what kind of creates a plan for your off season and the things that you embrace and work on.
Because there are emotions involved, because it's humans, you talked about reactive versus measured response.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because a lot of things that happens in the season are reactive on the floor. How do you balance that? Do you ever have to meet reaction with reaction? Essentially, as I'm saying, do you have to meet the emotion?
Absolutely. Particularly, I think the question involved, the season. So that's where the response is important, because you're talking about, hundreds of different inputs. During a given game or during a series, it requires you to be prepared to react. And I think that's something, frankly, that we're really good at. I mentioned Kleber. Like, you start the game in a pick and roll coverage, and, a guy gets hot. How long do you want to live with that shot? You change coverage again. You're going to give something up. Then, you begin with a certain coverage in game 3, and then you change the other way because he's not, 10 of 12 from 3 or whatever it was. So those reactions are consistent and ongoing. If a player gets in foul trouble, we want to attack Luka. He gets in foul trouble, we want to attack him even more. You want to get to the rim. They're collapsing the paint. Let's run a play that allows us to get a second side pick and roll. Bogey's post up. We didn't consciously try to stop posting Bogey. We did. They shifted and double teamed the same way we did to Luka. So Luka stopped posting. So that's something obviously that you can anticipate after a guy has a big night on the post, and you want to make sure there's 2 or 3 different ways they could double team. They could double team off the ball. They could just shift heavy. They could change the matchup. But I think you have to be prepared for all those things, particularly regarding how you space when he has the ball in the post. So some quick examples for you, but, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I know that we do that. And it's something that, the reason I know it is because I know how much we prepare for it. I think the key is, what are you reacting to so that you're able to identify it quickly? And then what's your tipping point? Do you want to make someone beat you? You may go into a game and say, you know what, we're going to make Lucas score. And then at what point are you tired of seeing him score? Well, it was game 4 that, we double teamed them at the end of the game. I thought caught him off guard. We blitzed their pick and roll. How long do you want to continue to blitz him? You watched the Phoenix series and watched their Clippers series last year when teams are blitzing him during the whole game. You're going to give something up. You're going to give up a Finney Smith 3 at 40%. But you shrink your rotations and try to make that easier. And you change game to game. But I think that's, to your point, that's the nature of the game, to be able to react like that. And I think in the playoffs it becomes even more important and more visible because you're playing the same team. So to the extent that, great players will adjust as well. I mean, you can see guys doing this on the floor, changing spacing. You clear out because I want a single side and I can get the lob. And sometimes things you do don't work, not because they're tactically not sound. You don't execute them well. There's a handoff play that you're supposed to switch. You don't switch it. They score. Does that mean you try not to switch it again? Do you want to try it again? So if it's a high volume play, you better look at it again. But first you want to see if you can execute something. There's a reason you start in a certain way. And then again, teams force you to react. And I think the most important thing is your preparation up to that point. That you have a menu of things that you can do. We can channel black, we can blitz, we can late channel black. Now we've got Rudy on Doncic in the high quadrant, and he shoots 50% against 5s in isolation. You do want to live with that, so do you go double him off the feeder immediately? Do you try to invert on the backside, and get a different matchup? Then they're playing pick and roll to get the matchup they want. So that's really what makes this fun on a lot of levels. And but in contrast to the previous question, the response portion, is only valid if you have time, and you have a little bit of time between games. We've got an off season right now, so I think it gives us time to really dig in deeper and
What come
uh,
about
up.
reacting to the emotional ups and downs this year? It seems like there were a lot this year.
Yeah.
Highs in December, low January.
No, that's I'm glad you said that because that's probably more impactful that shows itself on the court with your execution as well. When you see a team that is quick to a huddle at a free throw, or is a team dejected, how do you respond to a turnover? That was a big emphasis for us early in the series, that if we make a mistake, getting to the next play, not, wait till a dead ball to build your case with the referee, all those different things that are emotional responses. And you can't have a team that plays without emotion. I think emotion can be, incredibly valuable. It can provide you resolve and strength. And at the same time, like most things, if you become too emotional, you can lose focus. But, January was, I think one of the key things about emotion is what are you reacting to it? Is it something you can control, or is it something like COVID, And that's obviously, the most current example that we all feel, And then, do people get discouraged in a situation where, you need to do your best and try to get through a period that's difficult. The same can be said, and you saw it this year at various times when, how do you react emotionally to success? And what can you do on that level to keep focus? I think that's the main thing is, can emotion help you focus more? Can you keep focus, or does it take away your focus? It can do all.
How do you, what goals do you set for yourself, just as coaching Utah Jazz for next season? How does this team get, the definition of NBA champions are the ones that are probably the most matchup proof? How do you guys get matchup proof? How do you get better as a coach, heading into your ninth season? I mean, how do you move this thing forward individually and collectively as a group?
Well, first of all, I think it's something that you embrace, and it's something that we try to embrace as a staff. I try to personally. On specific things like matchups, from a coaching standpoint, you can try to control them. Sometimes it's difficult to control them. You can put a player in hedge instead of a switching situation, which gives other things up. But I would say, we got this year, and it's a little counterintuitive, we switched a lot of pick and roll with smalls, even though it changed matchups because we didn't always feel that there was that big an advantage to a matchup. Now, we ended up putting size on Brunson after the first couple games. We ended up, putting Boyan on Doncic. We didn't do that during the year with Boyan, but we knew that Boyan in a playoff situation was capable of doing that. He did a heck of a job, the year before guarding Kawhi. He's guarded post-up players more, though, and, he'll remind you that he guarded LeBron in the playoffs a few years ago when he was with Indiana. So I think, all those things you can do on a granular level, some of which I described from a coaching standpoint, and then on a more macro level with a team, that's, again, embedded, in the process that I'm talking about. And I think the more you can kind of have clarity on those things, the better able you are to develop a plan in order to do it. Oftentimes you can have goals, and then how can you reach them? And that's where competition helps you see that. And whether it's an individual matchup or a team, we mentioned the shooting. I'm not sure. We take a lot of shots. We actually had a practice where we tried to just and had shooting games, and had fun with it, just to try to have a little more levity. And if that was something that we were feeling too much pressure on our shots, we could address it. But there's all kinds of things you can do. I think, trying to be as transparent with yourself and with your team as possible is something. We had 7 things on the board from the beginning of the year that we generated, both from last season and in Las Vegas, that we looked at every day. And I would do a checklist to see if, have we don't forget about this, don't forget about this. How much time are we spending here? And going back and analyzing we time how much our practices are timed down to like 30 seconds. You start adding up a week, and how much time did you spend on a given area running? And then you look at your schedule and say, well, we had about 60 minutes to work on a bunch of stuff. So you have limitations from that standpoint too, but I think the prioritization allows you to use your time effectively and focus your resources, in this case, time being the one for me that's a very important one. So in my mind, the same process as you go through other things that you need to be able to do to improve.
Like Conley said, after the season, you're a team that's built on unity, and at times you've lost that. Do you agree with that, and to what extent, and then how do you address that issue of unity moving forward?
Well, I don't know if unity would be the word. I think every team wants to have unity, and that connectedness that you can see manifest itself in so many different ways. There's a number of values, for lack of a better word for me, that I hold at a really high level and want to see demonstrated by our team on the court. I think that's the best indicator of how much you believe something is how you live it, how you play. Unity and connectedness is always challenged. It's challenged by an opponent. It's challenged during the course of a game with adversity amongst a group. And I don't think there's a formulaic way to approach that. There's indicators, and when Mike says, for us, when our guys say that, you lost that, there's some specific things that they're probably referring to, whether it be ball movement. To me, running back on defense is probably the biggest one. If you spend a lot of time talking about running back on defense, you're probably not as focused as you need to be, because that's something that everybody can do. Now there's ways to do it. It's better to have Rudy back there, but that means he's not offensive rebounding. So as far as addressing, I think we've been, when one of the things I'm proud of and proud of our program is when you say Jazz basketball, I think you guys have heard that. You have a sense of what that means. I don't know if you can say that about, every team in the league. So when you say that, and it means something, that means you've built that and you have it. And whether it's a question of emphasis or through experience, you stray from something that is your identity and that does unify you, you have to continue to try to get back to it. And, that happens for players individually. It happens in a game. And as I said, I don't think there's a formula there. Those are things that you watch on tape, that you show guys individually, that you show collectively, so guys can feel it as a group and approach it that way.
Is there
Along the
another?
lines-
Go ahead, Aaron, sorry.
Along the lines of building that identity of Jazz basketball, when we've talked multiple times before about kind of the illusory nature of continuity, but when you've had kind of multiple seasons that end in, before you want them to,
Mm-hmm.
how do you kind of evaluate how much continuity is good versus how much change is necessary, both in terms of roster construction and in terms of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, just speaking for what we do, there's probably, I would challenge you to find a team that in a span of a decade led the league in defense and then led the league in offense over, however many years separated. So I think from a coaching standpoint and a personnel standpoint on the floor, you weigh that continuity where you have something that you emphasize and you do well and you want to do even better, versus has your personnel changed in a way that requires you, did you sign Boyan and, trade Fave? that changes your team, a lot, and that's not continuity. That's change. So I think adapting to change, I think you're getting at some of the discussion that I've referenced is, happens throughout the course of the summer with a larger group, at the roster. Again, I defer more to Dennis and Danny, although, I'm the one as a coach that ultimately is, tasked with maximizing the roster. And so, I think, again, there's a sweet spot there. How different players, connect with one another, maximizing that. But it's a great question. I mean, we all know that over time that it's hard to sustain a certain level for a certain individual or combination of individuals. That said, if you're at how high is that level? That's a really high level. I think that continuity becomes a real asset. So it's a really good and difficult question to answer because it's so nuanced and there's so many variables that go into it. I think it also goes to kind of how you define success. There was a sense that our season this year, the regular season, and I think it's true. I mean, the contrast between the previous year, I think we maxed our team out during the regular season, on a lot of levels. And that said, we were left at the end of the year feeling a certain way. This year I thought that our record didn't necessarily reflect what we could do in the playoffs. I felt like we were this close to just having a spark and kicking it in and finding that unity, whatever it was, that kind of extra secret sauce and taking off. And obviously that didn't happen. So I think part of it is what you're looking at and balancing, we've been to 6 straight playoffs. I've heard this when people try to say, hey, hang in there, Quin, how you doing? You've won the 3rd most amount of games in the league in the last 5 years. But no, I'm not hanging my hat on that. We want to do more. We want more. So, again, what things can you control and how much do they impact? And then how do you approach the roster that you do have? Do you try to do things differently as far as how you play? We kind of discovered that, 3 years ago when ironically, Boyan was out. So there was like this urgency to shoot more threes. And, we're that much better. You look at our record when we, X percentage of our shots from 3, it's not even close. So when they're not going in and everybody wants us to do something else, the games we do something else, we don't do so good. So, but, can you supplement that? That doesn't mean that you can't do other things, So, when people take away your threes, how do you respond to that? So, again, I think it's a complex question, and the overarching, I think, thin red line that goes through my answer is that, you're not satisfied, and no one's satisfied. If fans aren't satisfied, you reach a point where you want more, and that's the nature of sport. That's competition. So try to do that.
What direction is?
Two more.
What direction is the NBA heading in as far as some of these trends? And what do you need to add to keep up with the metonymy of Jazz basketball? What does that need to mean to be able to improve and stay better?
I think when we talk about Jazz basketball, early on, it kind of evolved. Early on it was stingy defense because we were going to have to, grind out wins a certain way. But even during that time where we weren't as good offensively, we really moved the ball and were a multiple action team. So there was more, our passing numbers were higher. As, at least in my tenure here, the concept of Jazz basketball, I think was ball movement, man movement. When you get really, really effective shooting, you don't necessarily want Boyan cutting all the time, you know. That said, one pass might end up with an open shot. So you have to be able to take what the defense gives, adjust to a team, and that unselfishness, to me, you know, you can be unselfish by passing the ball ahead to a guy in the corner and having him shoot. You know, it doesn't look the same as drive and kick. You know, I would contend that sometimes, you know, you have to play to your strengths, I guess is what I'm saying. And I don't think it necessitates certain things that you can objectively quantify all the time. I think that those are clearly, you know, good markers for you and indicators. As far as what the league is doing, the league is usually doing what the best team does when they win. So pace and space, you know, a few years ago, and I don't know, when did the Warriors win their first title? You know, everybody, I know for myself, you know, let's play with pace. And I got here and we were playing slow and we were really bad. And I was like, I don't know, why are we playing with pace? You know, we're not the Warriors. So you try to maximize what you have. And, you know, Dallas plays slow. They try to play fast when Doncic was out of the game. They played much faster against us then. It's probably a good thing for them to have the ball in his hands, if that means playing at a slower pace. So I think you see, you know, Phoenix plays big. You know, we play with the center. You know, like, if a team that has a center wins, we'll probably tilt and say, well, you can win with the center. You know, for the longest time, how can you win small? Punish you small, you know. And, you know, it's harder to handle. It's easier to handle double teams on the post. You know, isolation. You know, there was a point when no one liked isolation, too much isolation. And now we look at isolation and say, you know, when you involve multiple guys in a play, it's easier to defend. Defenses can do things to you, you know. So is that a trend? It goes back to me to, you know, what does Steph Curry do to maximize, you know, his impact? It's different than what Kevin Durant does, you know, and I think each team is different too. But I think you can fall into a little bit of looking at another team and saying, we're going to do that, if that's not what you're good at. Now, that said, if you think you need to do that to win, you either try to get better at it, you know, one way or the other. And I think that's where it's important to have a pulse in the league. Because I say that about Golden State, you can say the same thing, you know, about, you know, Detroit. You know, either team, the old bad boys team, go that far back. The league, the rules changed, so that's an easy one, right? Once the rules changed, everybody started to adjust. But there's a sweet spot there where I think you're balancing what your team can do with new ideas, you know, and I think that adaptation is really important. You know, we did that kind of work together, right? We got smaller, we added shooting, we weren't as good defensively, tried to maximize this. You know, now do you tilt back the other way, say we need more of this, you know, where is that line? And I think that, again, is something that requires a lot of focus and, you know, and then having an opportunity to kind of map it out and see what it looks like, you know. Daniel House did a great job for us coming in as a perimeter defender. And are there limited minutes, you know. If Joe's not hurt and here, you know, how does that impact your ability to get guys on the floor? So there's a lot of things that go into it.
What happened with Rudy Gay this season, just overall?
You know, I think, first of all, you know, the first part of the season, he was injured, you know, and that his injury, the rehabilitation process, return to play, took longer than I think he expected and that we did. So he didn't begin to play until, you know, mid-November, Thanksgiving time. And then there's a process of, you know, if you haven't played in a long period of time, you're getting reacclimated. And, you know, we talked before the All-Star break, you know, about really, because he was fighting he's fighting a knee and his foot, like, just say, let's get you healthy. Because I know there's going to be, opportunities where you're going to be able to help us. And I think, and then when he did come back, Juancho surfaced, and I think the things that Juancho did for us in that second group, that was basically the role that Rudy was playing in, earlier in the year. And Juancho was really effective, And, my discussion and dialogue with Rudy is going to be matchup oriented. I mean, you saw the games that he really played and contributed at the end of the year. It was the Clippers with matchups with Morris. It was Memphis. And then you go into the playoffs and you have a very different matchup. So, I think all of that becomes circumstantial. Okay?